Alright everybody, so I wanted to talk about shrimp. I had a subscriber ask me about shrimp, how to buy them, what to look for, what the counts mean. So here I have, these are 21.25 and these are 16.20. What those numbers mean is that's the count per pound. So these are smaller, there are 21 to 25 pieces per pound. These are a little bit larger. These are 16 or 20 pieces per pound. You also have U12, which means that's under 12 pieces per pound. You have U8, which are sometimes labeled as colossal. Those are under 8 pieces per pound. So those are the huge jumbo prawns you usually see. When I purchased these, things that you want to look for when you're purchasing shrimp. Preferably, if you live where they catch shrimp fresh, if you can get them head on and shell on, that's perfect. And if they're fresh caught, of course, that's ideal. But try to always go for shell on shrimp. It protects the flesh because the flesh of the shrimp is very susceptible to getting mushy and beginning to deteriorate. So the shell helps to protect it from that. When you buy shell on shrimp, what you want to look for is that number one, the smell of the shrimp should not smell like ammonia or be an offensive smell. It should be a salty smell like the sea with a little bit of the smell of the shrimp, but it shouldn't be overwhelming or it shouldn't be offensive. That's one thing to look for. Another thing to look for is the shell should be tight. You shouldn't see where there's air or anything in between the shell and the flesh. It should be a tight fitting shell. One more thing is on the shell you shouldn't see black spots. It doesn't mean that the shrimp are bad, it just means that they're not as fresh as they could be. Of course, you want the freshest product you can get. Some will have pink shells, some will have brown shells. It's not necessarily the color of the shell because there are different varieties of shrimp, but like I said, if you see those black spots. Lastly, when you get shells, when you get shrimp rather, they're usually peeled and deveined for you. If you get them and they're shell on and they're not peeled and deveined, here I have one of the 16.20 that has not been peeled or deveined. So I just want to explain to you what that means. In a shrimp, on the bottom there's a line and on the top there's a line. The bottom, this underneath one, this is what we call the lifeline. So that's like a vein that runs along the center. So with a small sharp knife, you just want to run down the center, right along where that is, and you want to pull that out. Okay? Just because that's just part of cleaning it. It's the vein, you don't want to eat that. And the one that you really, really don't want to eat is the one on top. That's what we call poop line. That's where the shrimp waste is. Not only is it the waste of the shrimp, which obviously we don't want to eat any organism's waste, but sometimes it's sandy because shrimp are bottom feeders. So you definitely want to take that out. So that would basically be cleaning your shrimp. You would do that for every single shrimp you have. If you do it under running water, it makes it run out a little bit quicker. Or like I said, as long as you have your sharp knife, you just carefully peel and devein that. So they should be clean, split on underneath to get the lifeline, and definitely have what we call the poop line taken out so that you don't eat that. Another thing about shrimp is cooking times. So when you're cooking shrimp, you can see that they're pretty translucent right now. They look whitish. If you were to look at it even more closely, it's more translucent. When you're cooking them, they will begin to turn pink and curl up. When they're pink and they are opaque and they have curled, they're done. To avoid overcooking. Doesn't matter if you're sauteing, boiling, whatever the case may be. That's what you want to look for so that you can avoid overcooked shrimp, because then sometimes they get tough and then you've paid all this money for fresh shrimp and now they're overcooked and you're not getting your money's worth out of your product. Lastly, when you're cooking and the shrimp are in a dish, whether it's a soup or sauteed or cooked in any way, shape, or form, it's better that you remove the tails so that your guests or whoever's eating the food, they don't have to now try to pull the tails off in the middle of eating and getting their hands in hot food or whatever the case may be. Just completely, when you're shelling them, if you're making it where it's a component of a dish, just take everything off. all of the shell, all of the tail. So it's easy eating. If you're making something like shrimp cocktail or chilled where you want people to be able to pick it up without necessarily touching the flesh of the shrimp, then leave the tail on because it's convenient and it's sanitary. Okay, I hope those were some helpful tips for you to look for. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it here on the page, or you can always reach out to me on Homestretch Chef on Twitter.